Great. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Valerie Groost. I'm an Olympic swimmer from Guatemala and the creator of this webinar series. I will be your host for today, and I'm so excited to welcome you all to this new edition of Underwater Chats by Panem Aquatics. It was created by and for athletes with the goal of creating a safe conversation space for crucial subjects of development and support that are not commonly discussed in the aquatic community. We have a great webinar prepared for you today. The complex relationship between performance nutrition and body image. I know a bunch of you guys have been asking for this topic. So I'm super, super excited to have this amazing panel of all former aquatic athletes, which is amazing, and current active athletes as well. And we are thrilled to have with us also an amazing expert speaker who will share unique topics and perspectives on nutrition and change a little bit our perspective as to how we think about this topic. So thank you all for joining us, and let us start this awesome conversation. So first we have Maddie Sims, a swimmer from the US. Hi, Maddie.
Hey, I'm Maddie. I was a Division I swimmer at Northwestern University. I currently work in marketing and I'm located in Los Angeles.
Awesome, thank you. Next we have Erin Scannell, a diver also from the US.
Hi guys, I'm Erin. I was a diver at Northwestern. Maddie and I overlapped for a few years, and I also overlapped with Valerie. That was awesome. I work in marketing and project management in Phoenix, Arizona.
Awesome. Then we have Natalia Vega, a current artistic swimmer from the US.
Hi everyone, my name is Natalia. I am a current member of the USA Artistic Swimming National Team, and I actually grew up in Puerto Rico and swam for their national team for a couple of years, and now I'm located in LA as well.
Awesome, thank you. And last but definitely not least, we have our expert speaker for today, Erica Bainey. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm Erica. I was a college swim coach in Division I for 13 years in the States. I myself was a college swimming athlete. And after I was a college coach, I retired and started a nutrition business to help athletes specifically in that aquatic space to learn how to fuel their bodies properly and to think about it in a different way.
No, thank you so much. And I'm such a fan of your Instagram. You shared the best tips for athletes. So thank you for that. We need to discuss more on that. But great. So to tell you a little bit about how this is going to work, first, Erica will share her amazing presentation, give us a couple of pointers and get us started on this topic. Then we'll open up to our panel, have a great discussion, and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So if you guys have any questions or questions that pop up, as we go through the conversation, feel free to put them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So with that, Erica, the screen is all yours. And you're muted, sorry.
Now I'm unmuted. There we go.
Great.
Hopefully that helps us out a little bit. And all right. So going off of that same topic, we're going to talk about the complex relationship between performance, nutrition, and body image. And as a former college coach in aquatic sports, I was a swim coach, swimming and diving sort of shared the pool deck. So, we saw a lot of the divers, divers saw a lot of the swimmers, but it's a very big topic. And as I got into my college coaching career even more, I saw that topic grow consistently in conversation, especially as social media came about. Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat became more of a commonplace thing where people were constantly sharing these perfect looking images of their bodies, and people were seeing that day in and day out. So that became more and more prevalent. And I would say that conversation around body image, since 2010 has definitely changed significantly. So I want to give you guys just some tips and to think about your performance nutrition as fuel. Right? So food, it could be also hydration. If you take any sort of vitamins, or even maybe you're on a medication, right? That's all fuel for our bodies. And we have to think about food as fuel. And we don't want our gas tank to look like this. Every presentation I give to little kids, coaches, big kids, parents, They all see the same image, and it's like you have to keep your gas tank full. As a former swim coach and as a former swimmer, I definitely saw a lot of my athletes come to practice looking like this. I myself went to practice looking like this at times, and we all know that's not a good place to be. We all know maybe we can perform or survive, but it's not the best place, right? We're not really going to thrive in that situation. And if we live in this space where we're on empty for whatever reason, then that's going to put us behind for days. It takes our body a long time to catch up. What I tell my little kids that I work with, I say, you know, when your mom or dad or grandma or aunt goes to the gas station to fill up that gas tank, how long does it take when you're on empty? Do you have to sit in the car and wait a long time? They're like, yeah, we do. Imagine that in your body. If you get this low, how long does it take that body to catch back up? That could be days, maybe weeks. So we always want to be conscious. We're keeping that gas tank, you know, closer to the full side. And just thinking about fueling to perform. Food is fuel, right? We have to get enough calories. As an athlete, our bodies need a proper amount of calories to train, recover, perform. Most of us at some point in our career have had an injury of some kind or something that hurts a little more than it should. We have to heal, right? We need protein and different nutrients for that. And if we want to get stronger or even maintain our strength, that takes a certain amount of calories as well. So calories are important. You will see that if you are an athlete, you're going to eat more than your friends that aren't athletes, right? At school lunch, you're going to sit at a table and you're going to feel like you're eating a lot more. And I've heard that conversation where individuals, especially athletes, are telling me, my friends make fun of me for how much I eat. I feel weird eating this amount of food because my friends are eating a salad and I'm eating, you know, a sandwich and a bar and an apple and carrots and hummus and crackers. And they feel a little out of place in that social space connected to their peers. So that can be a little difficult, but remember, you need that fuel. You are different than the everyday person. So non-athletes and athletes in various sports need different fuel, right? A swimmer needs different fuel than a diver. Okay, they still have to fuel their bodies, but it may be just a little bit different where they're going to take in certain types of foods. So we want to hit the carbs and proteins and fats, right? Those are all really essential. If we neglect any of those, you're going to suffer. You're going to have low energy. You won't recover as well. You might find yourself losing strength. You might get injured, right? And we really want to ignore those fads out there that promote serious neglect of any one food, or, oh, you should always just drink this product and eat a salad and that's it, right? You'll be great if you do that. We don't want to follow those types of fads. They're not healthy. They are not going to fuel you. You might be able to get away with that for a day or two. And then remember, that gas tank's going to go down to empty. And we're not going to be in a good place. So we definitely don't want to follow those types of trends. One of the things I want to share with people, you know, when you're training, whether you're a diver, a swimmer, a water polo, artistic swimmer, whatever you are sore because you're creating these little small tears in your muscles and you're using up the stores of energy in your muscles. So when those small tears happen, that's actually good because it allows you to repair them and grow stronger. So being sore isn't a bad thing, right? That helps us get stronger. But when we train or when we're lifting weights or practicing, we're breaking down those muscles and we want to stop that breakdown as soon as we possibly can. So one of the biggest areas of neglect I see individuals when it comes to nutrition and performance nutrition, right? And this is a mindset piece, right? When it comes to performance nutrition versus I'm working out to stay in shape. Totally different mindsets. And the TV or TikTok are going to feed us different messages on that. But as an athlete, you need within a very short window, we call it the 30-minute magic window. That's trademark. No, it's not, but I should trademark it because that's a good sign. But it's a 30-minute magic window. If you can remember that, and if you can get carbs and proteins in, that's going to repair and replace what you did to your body. But you have to hit that magic window, that 30-minute window, where somebody who might work out at the gym just to, you know, stay in shape, or maybe they're in a body composition changing goal and they're in their 40s, totally different. they're not necessarily going to need to eat right after they work out. They're not necessarily needing to replace and repair, but we as athletes have to replace and repair. The number one thing you can do to improve your recovery, to improve your performance, to improve your day-to-day consistency of training, especially in an aerobic sport like a swimming, diving with all the dry land and the boards and, the ropes, all of that as well. You can consider a lot of that aerobic side of things as well. So just, I want to put in here a few things in the slides as you'll get these, but just to kind of see how much calorie intake you actually need. And this is going to give you about a range and an average, but it'll show you need a lot more calories than the average non-athlete. And that's okay. You are using that for fuel, right? Like I said, don't look around at what your friends are eating at lunch or, right, your non-athlete friends. Just focus on what you need. So that's just a little calculation for calories. I also put the protein in one. I would say, if anything, we see people neglect protein the most, okay? Especially if you're a younger athlete going to school every day. It is so hard to get enough protein because the snacks we can bring to school are typically carb heavy snacks. Nothing wrong with carbs, but we're missing that protein component. So if we really want to perform well, be strong, have good strength and muscles, we need that protein to make sure we're having that. And then carbs as well, it depends on your training volume. Again, as a specific types of athletes are going to need more carbs than others. So it gives you just a little bit of a range and an average of things. If you're really interested in looking for numbers, I'd have no idea how much to eat, right? And then you can maybe track it for a day or two and see how close you are. You might realize you're under eating protein by 40 grams a day, right? That's significant. So you can know where you need to add a little bit more. So that'll give you some indications. And then the last topic I wanted to hit was focus on your health instead of the image. So instead of looking at your body composition and comparing it to everybody else, right? Look at your health. Each sport requires different demands, okay? And focus on things you can track versus how things look, because we've all seen those Instagram pictures where we see the before they photoshopped it all up and what it looks like afterwards. It doesn't even look like the same person. Okay, so make sure you're focusing on things you can track. Like, for example, your thyroid numbers. If your thyroid's healthy, your body's going to be much healthier. Your vitamin levels, right? Your hormones, tracking those, making sure those are in the right place. Your iron, your gut health, things you can actually track, and you can't see that on the outside. We don't have a printout that says, Maddie's iron is low. That's why she's really tired, right? We don't see that. She might have a beautiful picture on Instagram, but we don't know she's really tired, right? So we want to watch for things that we can track. And in the work that we do with athletes, these are things that we track. These are actual reports that we do with athletes. So we can track gut health, right? You can track your gut health, right? And a report like this is going to tell us about what's going on inside of your gut. How is your body reacting? Your thyroid numbers, like I said, this is an example report. You can track your thyroid. So if that's working, that's huge. And just a side note, interesting tip, any athletes in chlorine have to really be careful on their thyroid, because chlorine comes into the thyroid. It thinks it's this really important nutrient called iodine, but it's not. So it starts replacing that with the chlorine, and that can really make your thyroid go what I call wonky, not operating the correct way. So we can see fatigue, we can see exhaustion, we can see all kinds of stuff. Natalia, did you want to jump in on a question? Oh, okay. So you raised
No,
your hand.
I'm just, first time I hear, I'm like, oh my God.
So anybody in that, aquatic space of chlorine has to be very careful on your thyroid. It's something we really push and really try to help people understand how important that is. We see a lot of people post swimming, diving, aquatic sports careers have issues with their thyroid, or even now that they are still in that. Individual tests like your vitamin D, your ferritin, your iron, super important. So in, kind of recap, this is not trackable. Right? This is not trackable, but the health is, right? This is what we see on Instagram. This is what we see behind the blocks. That's actually a swimmer that works for us. Again, not trackable. David Bedaya, right? Super fit. David's a good friend of mine, wonderful person. you know, he looks super fit, but it's not trackable, right? We have to track, but he has to be very healthy to also have that good body composition as well. So have a plan, right? When you go to the store, know what you're going to make, structure your week. We always said this when I was coaching, prior planning prevents poor performance. Have a plan, have a fueling plan. If you don't know how to do that, talk to a professional. Here's an example of one that we use for a competition day for swimmers, you know, kind of planning out what's the focus, what do we need where. So have a plan, right? Just don't go to a meet and show up and go, okay, I think I'm ready to swim or ready to compete, but I don't have anything with me. Should I drink something? Should I not? Right? Have a plan. And then in the slides, I think you guys will get these. I just want to put some easy recipes that you can use like pre-practice, pre-meets, kind of post-practice recipes. These are all our own recipes. So, you know, some of them are very simple. It doesn't have to be difficult, but being fueled for your practice or your recovery is super, super, super important. So there's a good little homemade hydration drink. That's actually, you know, me trying that out. It's pretty good. A little berry chia seed pudding recipe. So those are just some ideas for you as you go through that. So I'm going to stop share. Like I said, Valerie, that was like a really hard topic in 10 minutes. It was super hard.
Oh, this was awesome, Erica. Thank you so much for sharing. Like, you know, you covered all of it. And exactly like Natalia said, I'm like, this is also the first time I'm hearing some of these things 5 years after retiring. So this is great to now apply it. And I think that speaks to how important this topic is, right? I feel like I think the norm is typically we're not really educated on what nutrition should look like for performance. And that goes, you know, to my first question to open it up to the panel is really, you know, in short, you know, can you talk a little bit to what were your guys' experiences with nutrition in relation to performance and body image right now? Some of you are retired now, some of you are still active, but you know, what are the lessons learned that now you're seeing from a new perspective, you know, with more maturity after, you know, retiring, learning more about the topic? Can you share a little bit about how that has been for you guys? I don't know if
I
you
can
want to
start if you want. Yeah. So I think personally for me, when I was in college and when I was a younger athlete, you know, I ate whatever I wanted. I thought I was fueling myself like enough to show up to the pool and perform and everything. But since committing to the national team full time, you know, we have more resources here. So the past like 4 years, we've been working with a nutritionist and just not like learning more things of how to like properly fuel our bodies. Like I was like, why am I hurting so bad? Like, why am I getting injured and stuff? And it's like, well, you're not fueling yourself the way you're supposed to. So I've had to learn over the past 3 years, like things that help me personally. Like our entire team is completely different. Like what works for me is not the same that works for some of my other teammates. But yeah, I feel like personally, I've just had to like kind of learn more about nutrition in order for me to be able to perform well, because not eating a good breakfast means I'm going to get hungry. Like our practices are 8 hours a day with only a 20-minute break in the middle. So it's like, what do we eat in those 20 minutes that won't make us feel disgusting when we get back into the second part of practice, but that we're able to hold down? So yeah, it's been for sure a learning experience. And Erica, I had no idea about the thyroid thing. So tomorrow when I go to practice, I'm going to tell everyone because like, you're exhausted. Oh my God. Well, maybe check this because it's a sign. But yeah, I think.
Yeah, totally. And just for some context, Natalia, that's so interesting. So you said 3 years ago, maybe that's when that realization came. For everyone listening, can you give context as to how long have you been in the sport? How long have you been doing it professionally at this point? You're with Team USA, heading to the Olympics, right?
I mean, I started when I was 7. I'm 25. And it's been like on and off, like almost 10 years on national team.
Yep.
And to be honest, like 3 years ago was the first time that we've had constant communication with nutritionists and help from like the Olympic Committee and like USA Olympic Committee and stuff like that. Before that, it was literally like, you cannot eat dessert. And we're like, but why? We train 8 hours, we're all fit, we're, you know, like, oh, you cannot eat fruit. And we're like, what are we missing that we like? And this is like coaches saying, not a person that got a degree in this. So yeah, 3 years ago, everything changed and we finally had like professionals come to us, talk to us, and now we're able to talk to them often. And like if we have questions about like our plans, we can go up to them and like I have my own nutrition plan with her, with our nutritionist. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. How about you, Erin or Maddie?
I would honestly say nutrition was probably the biggest downfall of like my athletic career. I planned my nutrition really poorly, really, really poorly. But kind of echoing what Natalia said, I think we were given a lot of misinformation, not just, you know, throughout my entire athletic career, there was just a lot of misinformation. It was, don't eat this, take out this, don't do this. And nutrition is a continual learning experience. Like I learned something from that presentation that Erica gave as well. And I'm still working on my nutrition. I'm 27 years old. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be working on it till the day I die, because the biggest things that I've learned is your body is always changing. And even though your practices might be the same, like 8 hours, like Natalia is going through, the way that your body responds to it can be different because your body is always changing over time. So what your body needs changes. And just because something has worked for years and years and years doesn't mean it's going to continue to work. So I always just treat my body like a science experiment, because that's what it is. You don't know what's going to happen until you try, and you try to gather all of the information that you can and then test what you think is your best hypothesis and then iterate from there. And you are, at the end of the day, the only person that knows the true human experience that you're going through. So, if you feel horrible, something needs to change. And trust that. And if you can't make it through a practice, even though you are eating enough, maybe you're not eating the right things, or maybe the timing is wrong. Like there are so many things that you could change. So like there is a solution. You will find it. Just make sure you're seeking the right resources, like knowledgeable places. Like Erica, for instance, there's also lots of health podcasts that are very reputable that like I listen to and learn from. And I would just encourage you to be a student of your own body.
Oh, how about you, Maddie?
Yeah, I think probably my answer is very similar, but I know growing up, I swam since I was, 5 years old. And I think growing up, especially during the like specific time frame when we grew up, I feel like the messaging was like, be smaller, you can be faster. If you're smaller, you eat less to be smaller. Cutting out carbs, I feel like was a really big message when we were younger too. And so I think that these messages when you're younger, when you internalize them, it's really hard to unlearn them. Like I remember sitting at a college nutrition class and like hearing about carbs, like Erica talked about, and being like, this can't be right. Like, so I think like unlearning, I think kind of just like lowering the noise around you and tuning into your body really was the key for me. And it took me forever. Like Erin said, I'm still working on it now. So hilarious that Erica used the example of Maddie being anemic, because I was in college, super low on iron. I was so exhausted to the point I was crying every day and couldn't make it through practice. And I had no idea what was going on. And I was, eating similarly to my teammates and following the little like plate protocols that we got on the note cards from our nutritionists. And so, yeah, I feel like I tried to power through that and just like tell myself, like, if I stick to these rules, I'll be fine. And it's really not the case. Like your body will respond differently to anything like versus another person. So you have to find a way to dial into how you're feeling and really pay attention to what you're doing and how it's affecting your performance, right? Because at the end of the day, like Erica said, your food is your fuel as an athlete. You are fueling yourself to be the best athlete you can be. So if you're not feeling your best, there are ways to change that. There's something you can do about it. And I know that it's like kind of a mental tug of war between like what we're talking about, body image and performance, that's a really hard, line to toe. And I struggled with that as well. And the only thing I can really say about that is like, if you are feeling your best, like your body is, that's how your body's supposed to be. If you're feeling yourself and you're feeling your strongest and your best, like your body is right where it should be.
Yeah, totally. Thank you everyone for sharing. And I feel like there's a common through line here, right? It's like all these things we've heard for years, right? There's very little, I guess, awareness and resources that should be, available to anyone, right? And I think we all have had experiences on this panel with US resources, right? Whether that's college or national teams. I grew up in Guatemala, that wasn't the case, right? You relied on coaches that would just tell you, you look fat, don't eat. That was the narrative. I remember I hated going to the nutritionist because the second I would step foot in the clinic, the first thing they would do is measure my fat percentage. And they would always tell me I was fat, always. Like never the case, right? And I was fit, I was an athlete, I was an Olympic swimmer. I was always kind of like in good shape, I would assume. And that's the worst thing you can say to like an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old who's going there to learn about how to fuel their body, right? So I feel like all those common narratives, like as you guys are saying, it's like common narratives that have been present for years, right? And then new trends, like you mentioned, Erica, right? With social media and aesthetic and body. And I think that's just replicated through our social circles, which is why this is so important to talk about in our experiences. And that goes to food restriction, that goes to fear foods, like you guys mentioned, like Natalia, like you can't eat dessert, right? That's, I think all of us have heard that, right? You can't eat this, you can't eat that. Like everything is like a no. And then the moment you do eat it, then it becomes, a larger issue with having fear foods potentially developing into eating disorders, which at least in my life as a professional athlete, I think I wasn't in a space where some teammate or person didn't have an eating disorder, right? Like it was very normalized. So I think even talking about those things, I feel like when I've talked to younger athletes about it, they're like, wait, I'm noticing that. Like how do I navigate these conversations? Exactly what Maddie mentioned, right? Performance and speed equating being skinny, right? And that equating to, oh, you can't eat if you want to be skinny. So what is your reaction to this, Erica? I'm very curious. You were a former athlete and now as an expert, how do you interpret all these experiences that are maybe now even more intensified with the use of social media and how we're thinking about nutrition and body image?
I would say, in the work we do with people, and I love what Maddie said, I think it was Maddie said, clear out the noise, right? That's exactly what you have to do, because what works for Maddie's teammate probably didn't work for Maddie, right? And vice versa. So in what we do in the work we do, that's why we do so much testing, genetic testing, and we can see why, hey, my teammate can do this, but I can't do this. And that's why. So you're giving kids evidence. And I think the more you can focus on the health, like I said, is important. But one of the big things I see probably right now around 13 to 17-year-old girls, the females, is they say, well, I look bigger than the girls I compete against, or I don't look as fit. They're really skinny, being completely transparent on word choices. And my answer to that is always, well, pull up the Olympians in your sport. So we're going to talk about swimming. We're going to talk about, look at the Olympians, okay, in the sport of swimming, and just Google like 5 names of the females. You're going to see totally different body images, Natalie Coughlin versus Elizabeth Beisel versus, they look different, and that's okay, right? You can be fast if you are healthy, and that's where we want to focus, is our health. So that image is really getting into those young teenage girls. And I even see it more in the guys, and they're not so worried about being, quote, skinny. It's more worried about, well, they have a lot more muscle than me. They look bigger than me. I'm competing against guys, twice my size. And so I need to gain weight. So they may actually go the other direction. They make unhealthy choices to put on weight in an unhealthy way. And that's not good either. So you see both sides of that. And I would say that's more in the middle school to high school, not as much in the college and professional world, but it's not, doesn't mean it's not happening. And maybe it's more internally voiced versus externally voiced. And quite honestly, a lot of parents are actually telling their kids that you look bigger than everybody else. You need to eat better, so it's an external source kind of coming at them and saying this, or their coaches are saying this. And that's just, as Valerie said, not a healthy space at all, for that to be happening. So we're seeing it totally grow. And it's because of, I believe, in my mind, it's social media for sure. Right? How many pictures does it take to get the one where you look the fittest and strongest, and how many filters, right? That's not the reality of how 90% of people actually look. And if they do, they're probably very unhealthy, honestly.
Yeah, totally. And I think something really important that you mentioned is how bodies are so different, right? And this panel is filled with different disciplines, right? Even within disciplines, right? Like Maddie was a butterfly, I was a long distance swimmer. Even just that, your body is gonna look different based on what you're training, your genetics, right? I'm a Latina, I have, curves, and I'm naturally a little bit bigger than, what one would think of, right? When you think of what should an athlete look like, it's exactly what you're saying, Erica, how those constructions are very much coming from either social media or even references to those elite athletes that we see, right? Like I know my body will never look like, Natalie Coughlin's just by genetics, right? But I think that's a common narrative that people don't address. Like, it's not that your body is not good. It's not that your body is not strong. It's not that your body is not fit to do your sport. It's just you're a different person. And that is something that is not addressed. Like, I even remember, like, when I was training, like, coaches would even print out pictures of athletes that I should look like massive muscle. I'm like, I'm tiny. I'm like 5'6". I'm not tall. Like, it's impossible for me to look that way. I bake muscle differently than other people, right? So I think it's so important. And I want to open it up to you guys, especially, like, we have an artistic swimmer, a diver, a swimmer. I know you were also a swimmer, Erica. So what do you guys think of these narratives, even within your disciplines, right? What are you noticing, or what did you notice before, even as to what are those common misconceptions? And now with a new lens, how do you think that narrative should be changed, if, let's say, you were to give yourself, even, that advice?
I think the thing that I always have always struggled with when I was an athlete, and like kind of how I had to reframe, was I have a very muscular body type. So it's very easy for me to put on a lot of muscle mass, and my muscles are like very thick. Like when I was a swimmer, I was a sprinter. When I was a diver, I was a springboard diver. Like, springboard and platform divers look different. Sprinters, middle distance, and distance swimmers all look very different. And like embracing your body type and knowing that every body type is absolutely beautiful, and embracing that what you do is so much more different and awesome. Like, if you're comparing yourself to some person that's skinny, like, that's great, but I have a pretty good feeling that they can't sprint 100 butterfly in what you can sprint it in. Like, you have different goals, and therefore you look different to pursue those goals. So, I mean, if you don't want to sprint 100 butterfly in your goal time, then like, great, like, you can go do whatever that girl's doing, but that's not what you want to do. You need muscles, you need fuel, you need calories, you need all of these things to accomplish your goal. And to pursue your goal, you're going to have to be stronger and faster and all of these things. And so over time, I've just had to lean into trying to become the best version of my body type. And something that, like, over the last couple of years I've done is, obviously, people are on social media, and you are exposed to what you're exposed to, but I don't try to follow any like fitness influencers or athletes that don't have my body type profile. So if someone is like very lean, I'm not a very like lean, I don't have like long muscles like a track star, for example. So I don't actually follow any of those people on Instagram. So I don't expose myself to those people, because it's like I can't handle it, honestly. But I follow people that are muscular and have bulky muscles, and I expose myself to that because it's like that for me is at least attainable, and I can look at the workouts they're doing and kind of like follow their lead, and that kind of makes sense in my mental space. But still not comparing yourself to those people, because Instagram models do what they do for aesthetics, and you are not training for aesthetics. You are training to be the best at your sport, and to be the best at your sport, you have to be insanely fit, insanely strong, and an insanely wonderful athlete. So just embrace yourself and embrace your body and love your body, because it is a truly beautiful and wonderful thing to have an athletic body.
Yeah, totally. And Natalia, I'm actually curious because, from the artistic swimmers I know the narrative is very much also centered around not only kind of the visual part, the aesthetic part, but also the functional part with lifts or scoring, which I know Erin is very similar with what we've talked about in the past with scoring as well for diving. So what do you think on that end?
I mean, if you look at our team right now, we're all very different. You have from super muscular to just tiny and skinny girls. I mean, I could say we literally have every different body type on the team right now, which is amazing to see, because it literally tells you like you don't have to be the strongest, you don't have to be the most muscular, but you don't have to be the skinniest. Like you can have a healthy body and still perform and literally be on an Olympic level, and like the highest level of sports that you can be. Growing up, I mean, I'm pretty tall, I'm 5'10", so I was always like on the taller side, on the leaner side. And a lot of times like my coaches compare other athletes to me, like, oh, you have to look this way. Like the taller, skinny, like synchronized swimming, I mean, artistic swimming, it used to be a lot like you have to be tall and skinny in order to do it. But that has changed over the years. Like anyone can do it. And that's why I go back to like exactly how my team looks right now. It's like I'm the tallest, 5'10", and it goes all the way to almost like 5'2" or 5'1", which is like you put us next to each other is very drastic, and literally everyone has a different body. And I think it's beautiful that we are like that, because when you go to artistic swimming competitions, like let's say you look at the Chinese team, they all look the same. Like their bodies are exactly the same, and which makes them perfectly match in the water. Like in a, when they do the routine, they stick a leg up and they match perfectly, where we have to match our heights and different stuff, because like we're so different outside of the water. But yeah, our sport, I mean, I think it's crazy. You have to, because like we're all so different, but you have to kind of act the same when you're in the water, and that's hard to do when you're so different physically. But we make it work. So
Yeah. Totally. How about you, Maddie? And Erica too, you both, we're swimmers. So what were the common narratives that you guys kind of like heard around the sport, and even, things you think should be changed with those common narratives?
I'll go. I'm probably a little bit older than Maddie, just because I remember when I was coaching, we swam against Northwestern. I remember, so I was definitely in my coaching days, and Erin, if I saw you dive, I probably recognize you too. But when I grew up, I was swimming in college from 2000 to 2004. So a little bit earlier. I've been on taper for 24 years. I always say, about 20 years or so. But that we were just told to eat carbs. Right. We had literally zero conversation around nutrition at that point. I think it's grown so much that it's actually a topic of conversation. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't give it an A+ in the conversation yet. We're probably at a D+ to a C-, but at least it's becoming a topic of conversation. But we were told to eat carbs, and for some people it doesn't work. And what we see for some people, overeating carbs actually works against them, because it really upsets their digestive system, whereas other people can eat tons of carbs and they wake up feeling like awesome, right? So I think you really have to follow this path, and you're seeing more of it in like nutrigenomics and following path of what all the ladies said of, you got to do what works for you. Right. And you got to get to that solution as quickly as possible. Not just everybody should eat carbs. Yes, we should have carbs for fuel, but you know, we need to focus on different kinds for every person. So I love that it's gotten better and we got that conversation going. But the problem with social media now, everybody can be an expert. Everybody's an expert on nutrition because they saw this one person do this and, oh, I should do that. I can't tell you the number of people that I talk to in our work. And I say, well, why are you using that supplement? I don't know. I saw it on TikTok. You know, so there's just so much info that sometimes it's too much, that the noise is just so much coming in. So you have to get from, I don't know what to do, to this works for me very quickly. And the sooner you do that, as some of these ladies said, the sooner you're going to see better results. So don't just eat carbs. Okay, you got to eat other stuff too.
So how about you, Maddie?
Yeah, I think like one of the biggest, I feel like we kind of, I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions, like especially in swimming, is just like, the leaner you are, the faster you'll be, just like smaller in general. And I think, belief was so pervasive. I always found myself like fighting my body. You know, I wanted my legs to be like leaner, but in reality, like having those stronger legs, like I could jump higher than the girls who were like 6'2" on our team, right? Or like my shoulders were so much wider than non-butterfly swimmers on the team, and I was so self-conscious of it and so upset about it for so long. But kind of like Erin said, right? Like nobody else could swim that event, you know, like I could. And so I think there has to be a mental shift like inside of you, and it's super hard, and I'm still honestly working on it some days, but I think like you have to just really be grateful for what you can do. Like it's kind of what Erin was saying, like nobody can do what you can do. Like you are special. This is your body. Like you are an incredible athlete, and so you have to just honor that. And this, I feel like the second you stop going to war against your body, you just like free up so much mental space and energy to like become the true athlete you can be. Like you unlock so much space and potential just by kind of like releasing that, you know, just like constant battle. And it's always going to be there. Like I, you know, or maybe it might not. I really hope it's not for other people, but I think for, you know, for me, it's unrealistic to be like, let it go. Like it's never going to be there. It's still there. But you can change that. Like you can challenge those thoughts and those, you know, deep-seated beliefs from what your coaches said when you were little, or something your parents or your friends said to you when you were little. Like you can challenge those and change the way you view yourself. It just takes, you know, like listening to yourself, figuring out why you're thinking the way you're thinking, why you're doing the things you're, you know, why are you doing the things you're doing? Once you really like step back and listen to yourself and trust your body and just be grateful for what you can do, I think is like just the greatest gift you can give to yourself as not only as a like athlete, but as a person too.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing. And a little shameless plug for Underwater Chats. We actually have a conversation on body image after retirement, which is a true thing to discuss here as well. So stay tuned for that. And Maddie, what you're mentioning is so important. And I think it ties back to how Erica opened her presentation. Really, you know, it's so interesting. And to me, I'm like, I think I'm still processing my athletic career. And to me, it's still crazy to think that we, at least the majority of people I've talked to, even through my research as a scholar now, it's so incredible to see how much athletes struggle with food and nutrition and body image and eating disorders. And exactly what you're saying, Mike, it's like we're at war with our body, which is our main tool to do our sport. And it's such an important thing to recognize. And I think saying it out loud too, right? Because I feel like it's such a taboo topic, especially in Latin American countries. Like to this day, it's not like you start the conversation and people like immediately shut you down. No, you haven't. No, it's you. It's nothing else. It's not even acknowledged that it's part of the culture or the space, right? So even what you were mentioning, Erica, kind of like that low fuel, you know, like you won't be able to perform. I feel like that's just the common state for most athletes, I think, which is crazy to think about. So thank you for sharing, because I feel like that's so important for people to like know. And I was talking to, you know, other athletes about this, kind of like how we need to talk to younger especially younger aquatic athletes where this conversation is so prominent, kind of like also there's no shame in saying, right, I'm feeling this is what I'm hearing. Like it should be an open and honest conversation. It's not, you shouldn't be doing that and like punishing them or making them feel shameful about it, but the other way around, like talking to experts like Erica, who can guide you in a really healthy way and think through how are you thinking about these things? What things have you heard? What things have you seen on TikTok that maybe is not the best advice, but great, let's discuss, right? It's not immediately shutting them down. And there's a lot of research on that, even with like cancer treatment and things like that, as to how people respond better to treatment options instead of the constant narrative, either what you guys have been mentioning, right? What you've heard from coaches or what you hear from parents or things like that. Or even if you express concern, it's you're wrong, you're doing this, or there's a punishment attached to it. And I think that's what should be improved in our circles. And that makes me ask all of you guys kind of like thinking of spaces and contexts as such important, places of development, especially for young athletes. How have you all experienced this, and what are some pointers that you now would advise people on how to navigate, especially when those environments are very negative, right? Like promoting negative behaviors like underfueling, over exercising, spaces where eating disorders are very normalized. How do you see it? What are some pointers now with fresh perspectives that you guys would kind of like point people towards?
I'll jump in, Valerie, on that one because something comes right to mind. And I want to say, so many athletes, and I'm sure all of us, in our careers in aquatics have felt bad. And Maddie said, in tears, can't get through practice. I'm sure we've all felt that. I can definitely relate. And that's not normal. It might be common, but that's not normal. So we have this mentality, and I've seen it in diving and other aquatic sports, but I know as a swimmer, I lived it, is then you're just not tough enough, right? If you can't get through practice, you're not tough enough. You need to work harder. You need to change something about your training instead of the outside of looking at it and going, what's going on outside of the pool? Right? What am I doing that's maybe, I'm missing or we're neglecting, or what do I need to get tested in Maddie's situation, iron? Right. And that is really going to tell us, oh my gosh, this is why you are so fatigued. This is why you are so tired. We can change that. Right. So just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. And if you feel that bad, you have to take action on your own body. You have to push. You have to get to the doctor or an expert and get tested and just check what might be going on. So don't just take this is my norm and this is how I'm supposed to feel. Get answers, right? And I think the biggest space we see from an education perspective and what I see is I get a lot of college kids and pros that come to me. We have 26 athletes we've worked with going to Paris, just in swimming. And they're like, I don't know what to do. These guys are professional athletes, just like Natalia said, right? 3 years ago, we finally figured this out. She's been in the water for how many years? They have no idea. So the education has to start. If you're a coach or a parent, get that conversation started at 8, 9, 10 years old, right? Where they're knowing what fuels their body. What's a good choice? And what's a sometimes choice, right? Ice cream, sometimes choice, not an all the time choice, but right, having that conversation so that when they get to the high school or college level, they're not starting at a kindergarten nutrition knowledge, right? So we need to push this earlier and not wait till there's a problem, right? Where, oh, you're not eating anything, right? We need to get this in the conversation earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else want to add anything to your, how has that been in your experience?
I think something that I wish I had known that I feel like maybe could have helped me guide me towards healthier choices was just thinking about what my actions are gonna do to my future self. So like severely underfueling yourself for years and training at that high intensity, it takes a really big toll on your body. It affects so many different parts of your body, not having a menstrual cycle like that really does a number on your body. There are so many, it messes with you have brain fog, it messes with your memory, your temperature regulation, your hair loss, those are things that you can not even prevent, you can build a healthier future self. You can do that starting now by dialing into your performance nutrition, fueling your body. I think what Erica's saying about food is fuel is such an unlock for me, because when you start to think about food as fuel, it takes away that like good or bad junk food or like healthy food kind of mentality. And it's exactly what Erica said, like what is going to fuel you the best and maybe what's going to like give you a little joy, but like, you know, what is really going to make you feel your best, recover your best. Like at the end of the day, like you said, Val, our bodies are our vehicles to do these sports. So you owe it to your body now and in the future to take care of it as best you can by fueling it with what it needs. And yeah, just remember that you're beautiful. I think that's like just needs to be repeated in many different spaces, especially to younger women. Being strong is beautiful. The like dedication that you're showing, the hard work, all the things you're doing, those are beautiful too. That makes you a beautiful person as well, not just how you look.
I can hop on the train. I think for me, I would have wished that I would have asked more questions growing up, because I feel like the questions were there, but you don't know who to go to or who to ask the questions to. Where now I know exactly who to go to. I have the resources, and I think making those available for people, will make this topic a little easier to handle, and people will have more information. Because like you said, Maddie, you bring up the menstrual cycle. In our sport, it's like so common. I mean, at least on my team and the teams that I've been on, to not get it. I know people spend a year and a half and they haven't gotten it because of they're not putting the right things in their body, or not necessarily the right things, but the nutrition is not the best for the amount of hours that we train. So I think, yeah, just like I wish I would have had the person that I could have gone to earlier, so I could have asked all these questions. It's like, why am I not getting this, or why do I feel this way? So yeah.
Yeah, totally. And Erin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think echoing kind of what everyone else said, I think the thing that I had the most value in was finding a confidant that you can just use as a soundboard. Because sometimes just you saying things out loud and getting them out of your head makes them sound different to even you. Like you're listening to yourself for the first time. So I think there's always value in, I mean, whether that's like a trusted teammate or an assistant coach, or if you trust your head coach, you have that relationship with your parent or your sibling. I'm sure there's someone in your life that you trust, that you can talk to them about, not using them as like an expert, but like I said, just using them as a soundboard. Like, hey, I'm exhausted and I can't make it through practice. I feel this way about this. Usually those people can help you get to where you need to be, and maybe, get you some resources. If you can't meet with a nutritionist, maybe you can listen to a podcast. There's lots of resources on YouTube. There's lots of free resources now, like these podcasts that Valerie is so graciously putting together. Empower yourself to find a solution. Just like Erica said, you are the only one having that experience. So empower yourself to find a solution to feeling better, and know that there is an answer. You just have to look for it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And to add to everything that you guys have said, I think something that is really important, we say this in every mental health webinar as well, kind of like, it's not shameful to ask for help, right? Like as you would if you're struggling, it's not a bad thing to say, can I go see a nutritionist? I have a question. I want to improve on this. I don't feel great doing this, right? You don't have to take it into your own hands, and it's not a bad thing to ask for help. It's a super normal thing to go to a nutritionist and have a good relationship with that person who is, the expert and who can guide you. So, be sure to ask people. And I know like two of you guys were my teammates, and I have those experiences of people also noticing, something's not right with you, right? And calling it out. I feel like being a good teammate is also on all of us, right? If you see someone struggling, like, hey, like, you look really tired. I was the kind of person that I was like tired all the time. Like I could barely function before practice. And then we would have like 4 8-hour practices, right? And people coming up to me and being like, hey, don't skip breakfast, right? After, I know you're tired, you want to go sleep, but eat something and then go take a nap, right? Like people checking in on you. So be that good teammate, be that good person, that's always there for their teammates as well. So thank you all for sharing. I want to open up. I know we have a couple minutes left. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to put them in the Q&A. I've gotten a bunch of questions throughout the webinar, so we'll try to power through. So I'll ask them kind of quickly. You guys feel free to respond, whoever wants to respond. Some of them are for Erica, some of them are for panelists. So brief responses if possible to address as many as we can. But the first one is, do you guys have any tips on recovery? I'm told to just drink protein shakes after practice, but that doesn't make me feel better. And I want to know if there's other things I can do, not only related to nutrition. And if some things have worked for you guys as athletes. Erica, you as the expert for sure can weigh in on that as well.
Check in the slides, 30-minute magic window, carbs and protein. Those are your big things when it comes to nutrition. Don't wait an hour to 2 hours to get a meal. That is way too long. Snack and then a meal within 1 to 2 hours. And then any additional things. I tell people you are going to hit crossroads in your career where what you do outside the pool is actually more important and allows you to do what you need to do in the pool. So foam rolling, stretching, and finding what works for your body. Some people hate foam rolling. They're just like, this is the worst thing in the world. Natalia is like gross. So just figure out what works for you. What do you like?
Sleep.
Massage, foam rolling, stretching, massage gun, right? Find out what you like. That's what you got to figure out.
Anyone
Any
want-
and all of it. And then
Any
watch
of-
TV while you do it. Watch TV
Yeah.
while you do it. Time will fly.
2 for 1, I say. Find an activity you could do at the same time and it will feel a lot better. 2 for
And
1.
sleep, a lot of sleep, or 8 hours
Naps.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Naps.
I always told kids, no amount of fancy supplements, recovery tools, massage therapists will ever outdo sleep. So that's the best advice, Natalia. Sleep. You have to sleep.
Totally. The next question is kind of related to what you mentioned, Erica, for, supplements that people see. So they're asking, I get a lot of different advice on social media and I don't have access to a nutritionist or someone that knows about anti-doping. How can I protect myself to know what I can use and what I can't?
Well, you can get a virtual expert. I'm a virtual expert. 99.99% of the people we work with are all virtual. So you can always find an expert out there that can help you. We tell people to look for first NSF certified for sport supplements. So look for that on there. That's your .1 safest option. The other ones that we like are Informed Sport or Informed Choice. You can actually check their database, NSF for sport, I think it's called .com. And you can look for specific ingredients, specific products, specific brands to see if it's NSF certified. You could pretty much find anything on there that you can go find on Amazon or, go to their direct website then.
Awesome, thanks. And I'll hit you up later for that resource to include it in our website as well. So this is for our panelists. Did you guys ever suffer from injuries or illness that could have been to lack of good performance nutrition?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. In any ways that you guys now reflecting back think, that could have been avoided, that could have been maybe, it's an education thing. Coaches should be talking about it more, about the risks of that.
I think coaches could. I only learned about it because I spoke to our team doctor and our nutritionist, and they were like, you have nothing covering your muscles. Like you don't have any fat to help your muscles, to protect them. And I was like, oh, so what can I eat in order to and they were like, oh, add this to your diet, like avocado in the morning, or like yogurt or stuff like that. But if it wasn't because I talked to them, I would never know because, I think I'm just sore or like, oh, my shoulder's hurting so much. And like, I actually got injured and stuff. My coaches weren't able to tell me why until I got help from nutritionists and team doctors and stuff. So.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
totally.
don't know that I really had a coach that was ever like I mean, Kate, obviously, Erica's a coach that's obviously very talented in nutrition, but I don't think I ever had a coach that was knowledgeable about nutrition. So, like, I would just be careful about what you listen to when it comes to your coach. Like Maddie said earlier, like block out the noise. Like
Mhm.
I think your coaches say a lot of things that are fantastic, and I think your coaches also say a lot of things that are need to kind of roll off the back a little bit, and like just kind of figuring out that filter.
Right. Right. Your coach's job is not to be your nutritionist. So they might have some tips, but really, if you run some really great advice, go to an expert. If you want to get your kneecap replaced, you're going to go to an expert. You're not going to ask your coach to do it right. Go to the expert in what you're trying to figure out.
Yeah,
And even just a starting point, I think could be just getting your blood work done. Just like a
Mhm.
baseline, I think that's something I wish I had known earlier with being so low on iron for so long.
yeah, totally. And something that I think I'm pitching in personal experience here, but a lot of things that people aren't aware and coaches even kind of like some advice that they can give, right? Like I remember I was told to like substitute meals for protein and drink protein like 24/7 and like after each practice, if you have like 3 practices a day and like there's a limit to things, right? Now I have to get my liver checked every 6 months, right? Extreme changes in diets too, and they would like extremely restrict us and like comment on our weight and ask us to lose weight. They wouldn't even tell us how, right? Just lose weight. So natural response typically is you stop eating, right? That's not healthy. And that leads, like pre-diabetes. I'm there too. I had total reconstructions, which I'm sure came from underfueling. Like there is a consequence to all of this, right? It's not just your arm is going to hurt for a little bit. It has life-changing consequences. So I think that's just a general caution to everyone, like coaches, parents, like please, if you want to help an athlete, like find the resources they need. And it's always a team effort here. It's not a bad thing if you don't know something, right? Leading them in the best direction. Quick question before we end for Erica, because I think this is so important. We can all relate to this. One person asks, I usually get super nervous before meets and I can't eat anything. What can I do?
I mean, it's the second most common mistake or question we get. And I will tell you, I was the same way as an athlete. You do need to eat. That is not a norm that you should not be eating. You should be eating. But if you're not used to eating, the best advice I can give you is to train your body slowly. So even though you don't feel like eating, you do need something. So start with something very easy on the stomach. So we're going to talk about carbs, right? So a go-go applesauce squeeze. There's a lot of different versions of them out there now. You can try something like that. You could try half of a bagel. Even if you get an electrolyte drink that has a good amount of carbs in it, there's a number of them on the market. You're at least getting something in your body, because if you go to bed, wake up, try to go to prelims or a morning session type of meet, you are so far behind and you might not feel it that morning, but I guarantee on day 2 or 3 of the meet or by finals, you're going to suffer hard. So get something easy, even if it's liquidy, in your body, and to train yourself to add a little bit more. Every meet, add a little bit more of something. We actually have an Amazon site where we have a whole category dedicated to swim meet foods or pre-meet or pre-practice foods. And you can look through there for liquid sources as well. But check your grocery store, find a liquid easy squeezy, and that might be your best place to start.
Thank you. And then, last words from each panelist, really quick, maybe, reflections, a lesson learned that, people can take away from the webinar. We can start with Erica. Do you want to give it a shot?
Sure. I would say, and Maddie sort of mentioned this too, I love what you said, you wish you had had blood work done earlier. Stay on top of it. Don't let it get to the point where you're crying at practice and you can't move, right? Catch trends, and yearly or every 6 months, you want to stay on a full extensive, including your thyroid panel with vitamin D and everything. That's what we check for everyone we work with that goes through the blood work, is we want to check and we want to watch trends. If we see something going the wrong direction, you can catch it before you're miserable. So stay on top of your own health is my best advice.
Awesome. Natalia?
And I think I'll actually take something from Maddie too. Love your body, love yourself. Everyone's beautiful, because we tend to compare, like we've all talked in this, to compare to social media and other people. But a lot of people can't do what we do in the sports that we do. So just to remind ourselves, like, when we feel ourselves and we do everything correctly, you know. So thank you, Maddie, for all the amazing things you said today too.
Oh my God.
Okay, Maddie, go ahead.
I'm just like so amazed to always be on these panels. These are so great. There's so many cool experts and so many amazing athletes. But I hope that readers just kind of, or listeners kind of take away that you are training to be your strongest and healthiest, right? And so that means you're not going to be your skinniest. You can't be your skinniest if you are your strongest and your healthiest. Those just don't work together. And then I think also, like kind of what Erica said, skinny doesn't mean healthy. You never know what people are doing to maintain that level of, you know, leanness. That we just don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And I promise you that investing in building healthy habits and listening to your body and fueling yourself is going to pay dividends in the future versus having to undo all of that, you know, mental and physical load that eating poorly can do on your body, kind of like what Val was talking about. It does come back to haunt you later in life. So start now, commit to being healthy, and yeah, I think that's really important to me.
Thank you. And Erin?
Someone wise told me once, comparison is the thief of joy. So just remember to embrace you and your body type, and that when you start comparing to other people, that's when you lose joy in yourself and how you look, how you feel, how healthy you are. So yeah, embrace your own beautiful body type.
Well, thank you to our incredible panelists, Natalia, Erin, Maddie, and Erica. It was a fantastic chat. This is going to be awesome, really, for our aquatic community. And I thank each and every one of you for being so open and honest about this topic. And we invite all of you to join us in the next editions of this webinar series. So stay tuned for more information on the Pan Am Aquatics social media pages. Summer 2024 is going to be filled with underwater chats, so be sure to tune in. And have a great week. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone.